Hello, everyone, and welcome to Rimworld. Yes, another sci-fi game. How surprising! I love sci-fi. That's old news. What Rimworld is, kind of hard to explain. It says right here, "Colony Simulator" by Tynan Sylvester. It is a colony simulator. Most people will compare it, with good reason, to a game called Dwarf Fortress, and as we get into the game, if you're familiar with Dwarf Fortress, you will notice the similarities quite quite easily. Uh, the newest version, version 12, I believe, the game is in beta, was released August 29th. There's been a couple of tiny hot fixes since then, but anyway, getting off subject, we're gonna just jump right in. We're not gonna worry about just explain things as I go. We're not going to worry about tutorials or anything. As you can see, you got to create a world. Just randomize any seed you want. Here we go, W73N. Size, I like to go real big on the world size. Doesn't really matter because you get plenty of variety anyway, but I like the big stuff. Generate the world, give it a second to work its magic. There we go, there's our world. Mathala 11 is the name of it. You can see we can scroll in, and the world is comprised of these tiny little squares. And each square, as you can see, is a region of land that has different attributes. You have your coordinates, you have the elevation of the land, the average temperature in the middle of winter, which is negative 5.3 degrees Celsius, the average temperature in middle of summer, which is 22.2 degrees Celsius. You can change whether it's Celsius or Fahrenheit. Um, I've been, even though I am in the United States, I've been trying to gradually switch over to Celsius and such, just to so I know both systems. Just because the majority of the world uses Celsius instead of Fahrenheit, but to each his own. I figure I do a lot of gaming, so the easiest way for me to learn it is to have it used in the games I play. But anyway, there's the average temperatures. You can see the biome is a temperate forest biome. The terrain type is large hills. The average rainfall, the stone types, which becomes important in the later part of the games, not so much right at the beginning, and the growing period, which is extremely important. This basically means the time of year where you can grow crops for food, which is the main use for it, but also for textiles. You can grow cotton and such to make clothing, which also becomes important. But right now, there's nothing we can really do with the screen except look around at different land masses. As you can see, there's lots of islands and such. I'm using WASD, WASD, to move around there, which you can do with the camera in the game, which I really like instead of having to use the arrow keys. It's just a lot more comfortable for me. Anyway, getting off topic again. Save and finish, since there's nothing else we can do here. And bring us back to this screen, and now we can create new colony. And here we get into some important options for how you want to play your game. You have different AI storytellers, and according to the game, the AI storyteller creates events like pirate raids, resource drops, or animal attacks. Their choices will affect the story of your colony. Basically, is the RNG, the random number generator. It creates random events and throws them at you throughout the game. And based on which one you get determines what kind of events get thrown at you. There's 3 storytellers to choose from so far. First one is Cassandra Classic. She creates story events on a steadily increasing curve of challenge and tension. So basically, you start off relatively easy, depending on what difficulty you select, but you start off relatively easy. Say you get a pirate raid, there'll only be one pirate the first time attacking you, so it'll be easy to repel, but then, say, 15, 20 minutes into the game, you'll get a pirate raid with 5 pirates, so you'll have to be ready for that. Next up, we have Phoebe Chillax, which she's actually gone through a couple different names, if I recall correctly. When I first started playing, she was Phoebe Base Builder. So, They've changed their name a couple times, I think. Phoebe gives a lot of time, give lots of time. All right, let's see if I can get this right. Phoebe gives lots of time between disasters to relax and build your colony. But beware, if she's set at a high challenge scale, she'll hit as hard as anyone. So, as long as you're not at extreme or challenge, if you say to free play, base builder, or rough difficulty settings, she'll be relatively easy. Basically, pirate raids will continuously be maybe 3 pirates will be the hardest. Will get harder in the late game, just not as quickly as with Cassandra Classic. So you'll have plenty of time to build up defenses and armor and weapons for your people before having to worry about anything significant from her. Plus, the time between random events is greatly increased with Phoebe Chillax, so you'll have more time between pirate raids and resource drops than with Cassandra Classic. And the last one, which is a lot of people's favorites to play, I've noticed, is Randy Random. Randy doesn't follow rules. He'll generate random events, and he doesn't care if they make a story of triumph or utter hopelessness. It's all drama to him. So, he's exactly what he sounds like. He's completely random. He could give you 20 resource drops in a row right at the start of the game. So within 20 minutes, you could get just tons of resource drops and have a really, really easy start to your game. Or he could send a pirate raid of 20 pirates right at the beginning and completely wipe you out. So you never know what you're going to get with Randy Random. Even on free play, he'll be a bit tougher than the other ones. As you can see, for free play, the difficulty threats appear, but they're extremely weak. But even with Randy Random, if he wanted to kill you, even in free play mode, he could easily do that. We're going to go pretty easy since this is the first time playing. Well, not mine, but ours on YouTube. So we're just going to go rough difficulty with Phoebe Chillax. Should let us see a lot of the features of the game without having to worry about too many pirate raids and getting destroyed within the first 5 minutes. So we'll do that, and next option is select world. As you can see, Mathala 11, the world we already created. So we'll select that, give it a second to load up the map, and here's our world. Now, when we click on a square, we're actually selecting our landing site. So this becomes very important. Instead of using WASD to scroll around, since it's kind of clunky moving around, you can just click and hold the middle mouse wheel and move it around a lot more smoothly. So if you want to do a really easy game, you want to find somewhere usually close to the equator, because you will a little south of the middle of the map. Actually, it actually doesn't work like a actual globe where the middle is the equator and it's cold on top and below. It actually works its way down. It starts off really cold at the top and then gradually gets warmer and warmer as you go to the bottom of the map. So up here you can see you have the biome ice sheet, and you can see the average temperature in the middle of summer is 0.7 degrees, which is just barely above freezing, and that's the hottest it ever gets. So really cold up here, and then down here it gets really hot. The average temperature in January, the middle of winter, is 26.6 degrees Celsius, which not entirely sure. I think that's in the 80s or 90s. Someone will have to correct me that actually knows the Celsius scale a lot better than me. I'm still getting used to it. I just basically know the basics. You don't want the temperature to be 100 because that's boiling, literally. And if you want to freeze something, you put it at 0, since that's freezing point. A lot easier than 32, and I don't even know what it is. The boiling point in Fahrenheit is like, I don't know, 212 or something like that. I'm probably way off on that, but anyway, a lot easier in Celsius. Anyway, back to selecting our landing site. If you want a really easy start, you're going to want a mountainous or hilly area to start with. Large hills, say. Get into that once we actually get into the game proper. But and on top of that, you want a large growing period. You can see this one's February through November, so there's only 2 months where it's too cold to grow anything. And if we come south just a little bit more, you can see the growing period is year round. Unfortunately, the average temperature doesn't get below freezing, which there are certain times that you want it to be a little colder out, um, but they don't crop up as much. You want usually a nice temperate area to build in to start your colony in, just so you don't have to worry about your colonists freezing to death or getting heat stroke and dying of heat. So if we come north a little bit, March through October, we're gonna go just right in the middle for see if we can find a year-round growing period that has a mountainous. There we go, mountainous tropical rainforest. A little cooler than the other place we found, I think, because it's mountainous. It's has a higher elevation, so it's a little cooler. Granite, marble, and sandstone are good stone types, which we'll get into later. And the growing periods year round. You can get around really short growing periods, like June and July is the only growing period up here. You can get around those by they have greenhouses that you can build, and there's certain ways you can do it to grow crops even in non-growing seasons. But it's just a whole lot easier if you don't have to worry about that, especially if it's your first time playing. But we're just going with a basic, easy setup. You can see you can select a random site. You can go into different map modes, which will color the map differently to show you different things. Like there's the biomes, which is just the different colors on the map. Elevation, which gives you a height map of everything. I believe it's darker areas are higher elevation, I think. Let's see, elevation is 302 meters. Elevation over here in the white. Oh, no, sorry, that's complete opposite. The white is highest elevation, and the darker it is, the lower the elevation is. So even though that's mountainous terrain over there, it's a lot lower than over here, which has no growing period and has an average temperature of negative 24 degrees Celsius. So that's fantastic. And it's also mountainous. But we'll come back to our area once I go back to the full map mode, but then you can see the rainfall, which I'm not sure. I'm colorblind, so I'm not even going to try and mess with this mode to figure out what color means what level of rainfall. And then you have the temperature, which, as you can see, is exactly as I described. North to south goes cold to hot, and blue, cold, red, orange, yellow, hot is kind of the universal scale there. Back to the full map mode, back to our original landing point over here. Oop, that's flat. Hold on, we can find it. Mountainous. There we go. Then we can come to advanced settings. You can choose your starting month. Auto puts you at the very beginning of your growing period so that you have the maximum amount of time to grow crops at the start of your colony. You can select manually what month you want to start in, which personally I like doing on harder colonies, harder games that I play, since you can start them. I like to start the month 1 month before the growing period starts. That way I can just get everything laid out. You do start with some food, so you don't need to start growing crops immediately. So I like to start a month before the growing period just so I have time to get defenses set up and prioritize other things that the colony needs before starting on growing. And here you can also select the map size that you want. There's pros and cons to each one. Small means you don't get a lot of resources on the map to start out with, but then if you're playing like Randy Random, who will sometimes give you a lot of resource drops, they're a lot easier to get to because you don't have to go very far from your base to collect them on a small map. And of course, the opposite for the much larger maps. The larger maps, you have more resources to collect over the course of your game, but then resource drops from the storyteller will be harder to get to because they can land way across the map and take forever to get to, which a lot of times isn't worth it. I generally like to go with a large map size. Um, they do give you a warning: performance may degrade at larger map size. Ludionocris, I have no idea if that's how they want that pronounced, but that size down here, these two, is untested and will almost certainly not play well. I've actually never played on it yet. I do want to do that one time. But again, everything's in beta still, so they put that warning there, which I like. Starting month, I was born in May, so we're going to start in May. And since it's arbitrary when we start, since the growing period's year-round, we'll close that for advanced settings, and our site's selected, and we'll select that site. And now, arguably, the most important part before you get into the game is creating your characters, which really isn't creating characters. The characters are randomly generated, and a lot of them are randomly generated from... Well, not randomly generated. They have a special game mode that you can buy when you buy the game, where it's your name in the game, I think it's called, where you can create a character which will get thrown into the pool of random characters that can pop up. They all have backstories for childhood and adulthood, which affects their skills and their traits. And they're incapable of. Basically, their backstory affects everything about them. Depending on what their backstory is, it can make them incapable of certain things like dumb labor or scary. They don't do a good job of explaining this, but scary basically means they're incapable of fighting fires, which is an important thing in the game. So, dumb labor are things like, not mining, what am I thinking? Dumb labor are things such as hauling resources from random locations, like from wherever you're mining to where you have a resource pool, a stockpile. Traits usually don't affect skills. Well, they can affect skills, but they also affect things like, as you can see, this one trait, hard worker, which is a very good trait to have. He's a natural hard worker and will finish tasks faster than most. It increases his global work speed by 15%, which is a very good trait to have. But he also has, he also has slowpoke, which means he moves slower. He doesn't walk as fast as the other characters. Neurotic is, give or take, it's a positive and negative in one. It increases global work speed, but it also increases his mental break threshold, which we'll get into once we get into the proper game. Basically, neurotic kind of depends on... there's a lot of factors that go into deciding whether you want a neurotic character or not. I can't really go into it now because I haven't been able to explain enough of the game, but I generally tend to don't mind using it. But again, if there's certain conditions going on in the colony, it can be a very bad thing to have a high mental break threshold. But we'll go into that later. Onto the skills themselves, you can see research down here has 14, level 14, which means he's a strong master at research. The skills go from 0 to rank 20, and I can't remember. I remember once you got to rank 20, skills would slowly degrade in level if they weren't doing that skill still. So say we have him researching and he levels up his research to 20, but then we take him off of researching and have him go mining instead. I remember a while ago, that the his level in research would slowly go down from 20 to 19 to 18 and slowly degrade because he wasn't using the skill anymore. Um, I think the threshold for that might be level 15, 10 or 15, I'm not sure. Or if they just removed it completely. I don't remember reading that anywhere though. But we'll see. Maybe someone could correct me in the comments. But anyway, 0 to 20 on the level of skill, and as you can see, for research, he has passion, which is a burning passion, which means he learns 1.5 times faster than other characters normally would. And a lot of these don't have flame icons on them, which means they have no passion for it, which means they actually learn slower than normal. And if someone has one tiny little flame for passion, it means they're interested, which means they just learn it at a normal pace. As you can see, he's really good at research, which comes with the awkward nerd here. Uh, I don't really get too into like the lore of everything, like the stories about things, but basically they tell us the every randomized character has a story which defines their skills, traits, and what they're capable of doing. It's a pretty cool system. The fact that a lot of detail went into it, but I just worry about the actual numbers themselves. Um, for the start of this guy would be good later in the game because he's well, not I would say mid game because you do need a lot of research. Um, really, just one or two things at the start of the game, and then the rest of them as you continue the game later on. But he's really only good at research, so I'm gonna randomize him. One other thing I didn't mention was age. There's chronological age and biological age, and this kind of ties into the story of how Rimworld works too. Um, there is no light speed or warp drive in this universe. Uh, they get to different planets by cryosleep, basically. So biological age is how old they are, meaning outside of cryosleep, uh, how many years, months, and days that they've actually lived awake. So, like a normal person, like you or me in the real world, that'd be our age. Their chronological age is, I believe, that age plus how long they've been in cryosleep. So, this person, if I can find a name, Rin Best, she's the best. Rin Best is 40 years old, but including cryosleep, she's actually been alive for 309 years. So, something to take into account. I don't think chronological age actually means anything, but biological age is actually very important because if we go into info, she might not actually be old enough, but a lot of older people will have negative effects here that will that you won't be able to remove. Like some people have a bad back, which will decrease their moving speed permanently, which is a very bad thing. She's not old enough. She's completely healthy, which is a good thing. So we don't have to worry about her if we wanted to use her. You can also see tons of numbers here. She's omnivorous, which is good. You can see how much leather you would get for skinning her, which is quite interesting. Life life expectancy is 80. If we were to sell her as a slave, we'd make a pretty penny off of her, and we'd get 90 meat if we were to butcher her. So lots of interesting stats. People might be a little turned off by some of those stats that I just listed, but as you can see, it gives her speed for working on everything. She has a normal 100% work speed. Base quality of treatment given to patients when acting as a doctor is only 70%. So um, from the start, that's probably pretty good because we have good quality medicine. But We'll see about that. Brewing speed, gotta brew the beer. Construction speed is actually 155%. If we go back, where's construction? Yes, she has a burning passion for it, and she's already at level 7. And construction this early in the game is pretty good. She's also good at growing and mining, which is really good, but not good to have so many of these because you usually want to be building, growing, and mining at the same time, and they can only do one thing at a time. So, oh, and traits. Trigger happy is fine. Uh, as you can see, it says she's a terrible shot, but she doesn't care because guns are awesome. She loses 2 to her shooting speed, but it doesn't take her. It takes her half as long to shoot, so she shoots a lot faster, but she's a lot more inaccurate too. So, she'd be good for a spray and pray weapon like a Gatling gun or whatever. But her shooting is at lowest it can be, unaware basically of how to shoot. But she's trigger happy. Really bad thing here is abrasive. She's always says exactly what's on her mind, especially if it's bugging her. That tends to rub people the wrong way. The colonists in the game have mood statistic, which is based on a number of factors like how pretty their environment is, how comfortable they are. Like, say they don't have a jacket and it's freezing outside, they'll get cold, and that'll decrease their happiness. Um, Abrasive is bad because anytime she's near another colonist, they will receive a negative effect to their happiness just by being near her because she's abrasive. So that's generally not a good thing. You can get away with it later in the game when you have a lot of things to make people happy, but at the start of the game, it's very bad. Incapable of violent or scary. We want everyone able to fight, so he's no good. He's capable of everything, which is good. Very passionate about melee. Good social, very good social, very good with animals. You can actually tame animals in this game, yes, and use them to fight or to haul things. Very good at medicine, too, which is good. We might hang on to this guy. If he's 58, he might be a little too old. Check his health. Yeah. He has a stab scar on the neck. He has a bad back, and he's frail. So his moving is very poor. He's constantly in a little bit of pain, which means his mood is going to be very low. Well, not very low, but his mood will constantly be a little lower. So if it weren't for that, he would be a good one, but we're going to have to randomize him again. Capable of nothing. Not very good at combat, but very good at medicine. Slight passion for cooking, so we could train that up. Cooking is one that you want early on because if you have someone bad at cooking your meals for your colonists, they'll actually get sick and start throwing up all over the place. So he doesn't have a passion for growing, but he's good at it. Interested in mining and art and research. We might hang on to him. He has a green thumb, which means his growing is +2, as we can already see. And he has a chemical interest, which can not be very good. Has an unusual interest in chemical sources of enjoyment. He'll consume more of them and is more likely to go on binges. So basically, if his mood gets too low, if he gets too unhappy, he could basically go on a drinking binge and go completely drunk one night. He is 46, though. Let's check his health. No injuries. Alright, that's good. I think we'll hang on to him for now. He seems decent. Let's check Bowl. Teenage male colonist. Not incapable of anything. We already have someone with medicine, though. Decent at shooting. Horrible at construction, research. I think I like May for that better. Too many people incapable of things. Incapable of none. Not very good at combat, which is a bad thing. Has a little bit of passion for melee, but it's still a low skill. Very good at medicine. Huh. Nope, we're gonna skip him. People with violent, want everyone able to fight. This person's neurotic, he's a jogger, so he's a little bit faster. Or she, sorry. Good at melee, and not very good at anything else. But she's kind of all around. I think I might hang on to her. Alright, now we definitely want someone good with shooting. There we go. But he's incapable of intellectual, caring, social, and crafting. It's horrible. Again, someone else good with combat, but incapable of crafting and cleaning. That's actually okay, but he is. Hmm. Global work speed. Yeah, those traits are too bad. Person's abrasive, very neurotic. I've not heard that one. But I don't like incapable of dumb labor. Capable of caring or social, so can't do social, which is basically um the social skill is used for prisoners mostly, and medicine is used for treating wounds and diseases and doing surgery. Psychically dull is very good. You'll get a psychic phenomena every now and then, which will decrease people's moods. And being psychically dull means it's decreased. The effects decrease by 50% on them. Steadfast, mental break thresholds lower, so it's actually very good and very good shooting because they were a vat grown soldier. I think that's good. Check the health on everyone. She does have a stab scar on her right arm, which means her manipulation is decreased by 3%. That's not really bad. The little bit of pain will cause a little bit of unhappiness, but not enough to be too much of a problem. We never checked on Josephine. No injuries. Double check here. No injuries. Alright, so I think we have our initial 3 colonists. So we click start. It'll generate our map. And not responding. Not responding. Uh-oh. Ah, there we go. The 3 of you awake in your crypto-sleep sarcophagi to the sound of sirens and ripping metal. You barely get to the escape pods before the ship is torn apart. Sometime later, you land on this unknown Rimworld. As pieces of the shredded starship fall around you, you start making plans to survive. And so it begins. Pause the game right away. You can hit spacebar and that'll pause it. And this is where we're going to call it, I believe. Yeah. Setup takes a long time for this game if you don't know what you're doing, or if you're explaining everything like I was. Setup can take a very long time, especially when you get to the character generation. As you can see, we start with a number of supplies from the crashed spaceship, some wood, some silver, which acts as your money, uh, packaged survival meals, some weapons, and we actually start with an animal, which is new to the game. Um, we have a female Yorkshire Terrier, age 4, name of Terrifying. Not sure I like that name. But anyway, yeah, that's the first episode. Hopefully some people will be interested in this. I've really enjoyed this game and get quite addicted to it. Um, so hopefully we can make a regular series out of this if enough people show interest. Um, but we'll stop things here and we'll pick up next time. Thank you for watching. Have a great day. See you.